Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to get started. We have a really packed agenda today that we're so excited for. For those who are still outside grabbing food, feel free to take your time, but do know that we are starting our program. And I'm super excited to welcome President Prabhanav to give our welcome to start our program for the day.
Thank you, Kalia. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Augsburg and to this very special celebration, the 10th anniversary summit of the Capital Pathways program. It's a joy to be with you today as we honor a decade of impact, leadership, and transformation made possible through this visionary effort of the Citizens League. Let me begin by recognizing the bold and necessary purpose that brought Capital Pathways into being. This program was created to open doors that too often remain closed to young people of color in our state, particularly when it comes to the halls of government, policymaking, and public service. 10 years ago, the Citizens League made a commitment to equity not just in words, but in practice. And they've spent the last decade proving what's possible when access and opportunity are matched with talent, drive, and a deep commitment to the common good. Here at Augsburg, we talk often about our identity as an anchor institution, a place rooted in our community, dedicated to equity and committed to preparing students not only for careers, but for lives of purpose. That is exactly what Capital Pathways is doing, cultivating a new generation of civic leaders who reflect the diversity and promise of Minnesota. It's no surprise that many of our students have found their path through this program. Over the past 10 years, more than 300 interns have walked into the offices at the state capitol and across the policy landscape of Minnesota and beyond, bringing their lived experience, their curiosity, and their courage. Those interns have not only contributed meaningfully to their host organizations, they have also changed those organizations. They've reminded us that representative government must be truly representative if it is to serve the whole of our communities. But this 10th anniversary is not just a celebration of the past, it's a call to the future. We know the work is not done, inequities still persist, doors still need opening, voices still need amplifying, and that's why gatherings like this are so important, because they renew our shared commitment to creating a political and civic life that is inclusive, accessible, and just. To the current students in the Pathways program, to the alumni of the program who are here today, thank you for your courage and your leadership. To the partners and sponsors, thank you for your belief in this work and your continued investment. And to the Citizens League team, congratulations on this milestone, and thank you for your vision, tenacity, and unwavering focus on equity. Here's to 10 years of progress and to the many, many years more ahead. Welcome here, and let's get to work. I now welcome Capital Pathways Program Director Kalia Young to share more about the program and its impact through the past decade, a decade of breaking barriers to civic participation, connecting young people of color to the public policy-making process, and literally changing the face of policymaking across Minnesota. Kalia?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Good? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, President Prabhanav, for your warm welcome, and also for hosting our Capital Pathways 10th year anniversary summit here on Augsburg's campus. As you mentioned, so many Augsburg students have come through our program, and fun fact, one of our program founders, Juventino Meza, is actually a proud Augsburg alumnus, and it is because of his vision and leadership that Capital Pathways is even made a program today. So it is a bit of a nice full circle moment to be here at Augsburg, a place that has such a special connection to our program roots. And we're super excited to be here to celebrate 10 years of our program impact and also this year's graduating student cohort. So good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kalia Shong, and I am the Capital Pathways Program Director. And when I look out to all of you in this room today, I am just filled with tremendous joy. I see longtime friends of our work, and I also see so many new faces that are joining us for the very first time. I'm so excited and energized to be in community with you all and to dream together about how we can continue to support, to uplift, and to honor the excellence of BIPOC leadership here in our communities. To those who are joining us for the first time, Capital Pathways is a program of the Citizens League. And the Citizens League is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that is committed to empowering everyone to engage in civic life and public policy making. And it is this very commitment to public policy making, inclusive public policy making, that is the heart of the Capital Pathways program. As the only paid internship program in the state of Minnesota that opens a policy and public service career pathway for BIPOC college students, we believe that it is essential to create opportunity for BIPOC leaders to actively engage, to influence, and also to drive public policy outcomes that close disparity gaps in their communities. So we're so honored to have Capital Pathways to be a part of our work in the community. And this is truly only possible because of the generosity and also the support of so many of you who believe in the work that we do. And for making today's event possible, we would like to give a special thank you to our event sponsors. They're all listed on the screen here, but I will also name them off. Frederickson Government Affairs, Southwest Airlines, Taft Advisors, Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota, Fresh Energy, League of Women Voters of Minnesota, the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits, and also the Minnesota Budget Project. Thank you so much for supporting our work and for sponsoring this event. So this year, we are so proud to be celebrating an incredible milestone event, 10 years of program impact and 10 years of changing the face of public policy decision-making here in the state of Minnesota. I want to direct your attention to a program video that we prepared for you today, and you will get the opportunity to hear directly from some of the folks who are the closest to this program, our students and our alumni, and you will get to hear from them about their personal experiences with Capital Pathways, and also about the impact that Capital Pathways has had in the state of Minnesota. The Capital Pathways program is a leadership development program for college students of color. We bring together a cohort of up to about 40 BIPOC college students. It's really a program that is investing in building our future leaders of color. They also are placed in different internship experiences with different host organizations, from law and lobbying firms to nonprofits, state agencies. We're really trying to expose students to all the different career paths that are available to them in public policy making.
I know a lot of alumni of the program who have gone on to great careers at the Capitol, and so it truly is a launching pad for young professionals who want to get more involved in policy making at the state level.
I was already very interested in the law, but I didn't know a lot about the legislature or policy making, so I think that's what really piqued my interest about Capital Pathways more than anything.
I'm glad I signed up because it ultimately ended up changing the whole trajectory of my career. Senior year, if you'd asked me at the beginning of the year, I would have said absolutely not going to grad school. But after experiencing Capital Pathways, I was like, oh, I'm interested in policy.
When Capital Pathways was first founded, 6% of our legislators were people of color. Fast forward to today, I believe there is about 17% of them who are people of color, and that is a huge move in the right direction, right? But we still need more diversity in these spaces. We still need more young people of color involved.
If we are creating policy without diverse perspective and voices, we've seen currently and historically that bad policy gets created. It's implemented poorly, and it really just exacerbates already existing disparities.
Policymakers should be representative of the state and of people they represent. Capital Pathways has really provided I'd say a good on-ramp and entry point, and then a good network for people to keep building once they have arrived there in the halls of power.
This is what Capital Pathways is showing these individuals. They're giving them an opportunity to experience something that they may not have ever experienced before. This is individuals of color doing the job, showing that they're competent of doing the jobs. They're showing that they can sit in a committee meeting, even testify on a bill.
I think this program in particular is so special because it connects those of us in this world now with those who maybe know they want to be involved but don't yet know exactly what that looks like, to learn more about it and to figure out what their niche might be or what they want to explore further.
If you're in college and it kind of aligns with what you're already studying in school, what better experience than to be hands-on? You can't learn what Capital Pathways and your internship placement teaches you in a classroom, quite frankly.
I think our host organizations benefit from working with young leaders of color who are bringing to them different perspectives and fresh energy that they might not necessarily find anywhere else. It is so great for them to tap into a network of students who are hungry and engaged to learn and to really hit the ground running.
I feel like I see confidence, I see already gaining knowledge about the legislative process, and more interest in policy and advocacy.
What I love about working with our host organizations is that we have this shared vision and goal of investing in the development and leadership of our students. So this means that host organizations are engaging our students in ways that go beyond what you typically think an intern would do.
I think one of the biggest things is putting them in a position where they can witness leadership. And I think Capital Pathways does actually do a really good job of this because they do provide like a whole day training on how to, navigate the Capitol, whether that's bill tracking, learning how a bill gets crafted, like the Schoolhouse Rock kind of training, but like more in depth.
After a decade of Capital Pathways, we have now served 300 leaders of color who have gone on to do amazing things at the local level, state level, nationally, and we even have alumni who are working now internationally as well too.
It's an impactful outcome of something like Capital Pathways. You're putting folks on kind of level ground, and you're not forcing, but you're allowing a space where these young Black and brown folks can start to see themselves in a role where they can really influence the outcomes of the communities around them.
You can see in the alumni network and the positions that people have now. I mean, state government looks different based on what Capital Pathways has brought to the Capitol, what's brought to state government, and what's brought to leadership across organizations that deal with public policy.
Minnesota is a very, very diverse state. And if we were to lose a program such as Capital Pathways, we're really shutting the door on a lot of those students' voices and young professionals that could make an impact.
Minnesota can't afford to lose any program that is equipping people of color with the skills that they need to close the workforce gaps, the housing, the home ownership gaps, the wage gaps, the business ownership gaps.
In terms of an internship program, it's the best I've ever been a part of. I love hearing about where the Capital Pathways interns go on after. I look forward to hearing how it's really impacting Minnesota governance overall in the long term, these past 10 years and the next 10 years, how it's impacted who runs for office, how it impacts the advocates at the Capitol, and that, we can really show how it's leading to a more just and equitable legislature and political process.
What would it look like if we can support students at a larger scale? Envisioning what it can look like as we really start to build out that ecosystem of different organizations, people, efforts that are really invested in building support and investing in leaders of color who are operating in public policy making and systems change work.
What I hope for the next 10 years is it keeps going for the next 10 years and keeps providing this opportunity to so many talented young people that are looking to be engaged in the public policy arena in some way, whether it's being a lobbyist or working in a state agency or being a staffer at the Capitol or maybe even running for office someday.
I think Capital Pathways has done an amazing job in 10 years of producing so many amazing people and putting them on the paths that they're on and connecting them in all these different ways. And I think, all I can hope is that they keep doing that and that all of these external factors kind of come together and help them in that mission.
Not only see it as an opportunity to help the next generation of BIPOC leaders, but really understand that it will help your organization become better. It's helped our work. They contribute as a team member, but I think it's made us better at what we do.
This was not an option for me when I was growing up. So this is why we need this program, to continue investing in youth of color.
When you find your community of people who have a shared vision and shared goals and passions, and you take action to move forward a need or a gap that you see that would benefit your community, dreams can really become a reality. So 10 years ago, when Capital Pathways was first founded, it was founded on the trust and the shared vision that we as a state and we as a community can do better. The vision that we as a community can take active steps to move the needle forward in creating a more inclusive state and to ensure that those who have decision-making power are reflective of all of our communities. And like mentioned in the video, fast forward 10 years, and together we have truly turned vision into reality as we literally see the halls of power at the Capitol, the different leadership and public policy making decision spaces, and the local, state, and federal levels diversify year after year. We are students who are called to learn how they can make a difference, our alumni who continue to be agents of social change in their communities, our host organizations who mentor and invest in our students, and you who show up to support and also to celebrate the possibilities of what can be when we work towards a shared vision together. So in 10 years, it is truly extraordinary, the impact and the change that we have made together. This year, we worked with a cohort of 41 BIPOC students from 12 different colleges and universities, and they were placed in internship experiences with 40 different host organizations where they worked to advance different public policy issues across the board, from healthcare policy to education, housing policy, and so much more. From a post-program evaluation, we know that our students walked away with the following learning outcomes. You can read them on the screen here, but to just give you some brief highlights, they learned more about the legislative process. They gained networks at the Capitol that they will carry on with them way after the program. They became more engaged as members in their communities, and they felt more prepared to enter the workforce. And these outcomes are so significant and they are transformational because they reflect the change, the learning, and also the confidence that builds when we connect young people of color and their talent to opportunity. And these outcomes also carry in our alumni network as we know that our alumni also continue to stay engaged and they are actively shaping public policy outcomes in their communities in real time. In an alumni survey that we conducted earlier this year, we learned that over 70% of them continue to be engaged in public policy in some way, whether this is through a full-time or part-time employment, internships, or graduate study, they have truly carved a space for themselves in public policy, and they are here to stay. Here on the screen, you'll see some examples of the positions and pursuits that they have gone on to do. And they're at the Capitol. They are in local government, they're at state agencies and law firms, and they even own their own businesses. So these outcomes and the direct experiences from our students and our alumni, they help show us that Capitol Pathways and other pathways programs like ours are truly making a difference in opening access to opportunity, connecting BIPOC communities to power, and also to decision-making spaces that have historically excluded their communities for centuries. So today we gather to celebrate 10 years of our program impact, but most importantly, we gather to celebrate the transformative power of BIPOC-led change and leadership in community. In a time when we are experiencing political and legal challenges against diversity, equity, and inclusion work, efforts that seek to make our state a more inclusive space and place for everyone, these spaces of solidarity, spaces of celebration and support for our BIPOC leaders and communities are now more needed than ever before. So we are so excited for today's program, and in addition to our speakers who will be joining me shortly on this stage, we have an inspiring lineup of different breakout sessions focused on conversation and learning on how we can uplift BIPOC leadership, advocacy, and impact. So to help you decide which session to attend, please refer to the slide here on the screen or to the bottom right corner of your program. If you scan that QR code or go to the link that's listed, you will be directed to a description of all of our 4 different breakout sessions, and you will also learn more about the speakers who will be leading or participating in these sessions. So I do ask you during this morning program to please take a moment to review all of these different breakout sessions and choose one that you would like to attend once we break out for these sessions. So now to keep us moving along, it is my pleasure to introduce and to welcome our keynote speaker, James Burrows, to the stage. James is the first Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer to serve the state of Minnesota and is currently the Senior Vice President, Government and Community Relations Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer at Children's Minnesota, which is the only healthcare system in the state dedicated to serving the comprehensive health needs of children. James has dedicated over 30 years of his professional career to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workforce and models how leaders can address disparities and shift systems of power when all communities, and especially communities of color, are included in the decision-making process. So thank you so much for joining us, James, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Kalia. Good morning. Come on now, we can do better than that. Good morning. I know it's rainy outside, it's cloudy, but the sunshine is in this room. Happy birthday to Capitol Pathways and the Citizen Leagues for bringing this program together. So give them another round of applause for their work. Now let me get some stuff on the table to begin with. At first, when I was asked to do the keynote for graduation, I was like, oh, cool. Like a graduation speech, I'll be in between the hors d'oeuvres and the people taking pictures after graduation. I'll keep it up there, say a few jokes, laugh a little bit, get off the stage, and it'll be done. I'm at the beginning of the program, so I got to give you all energy to get through breakout sessions and all things till 1 o'clock. I'm up for it, but I had to change and pivot a little bit. So I wanted to let you know this speech is a little different and I want to give you some nuggets to move forward with. The other piece of it is I, by accident, remembered that back in 2016, where I was the state's first Chief Inclusion Officer. We forgot equity back then, so we had Chief Inclusion Officer title for Governor Dayton. I was the first of that. But I hired someone named David Collier to work for me and with me and partner with me, and he was a Capital Pathway intern back in 2016. So I've been rocking with Capital Pathways for a long time, and he was an excellent worker, and we built inclusion and equity work at the state of Minnesota. So I want to thank Capital Pathways for that as well. The other thing is, too, many of the Capital Pathways graduates I either work with, have hired as consultants, so make sure you do two things before you leave today. Listen to a lot of the speakers you're going to have, but also to network. It's not enough to just friend me on LinkedIn. I have 12,000 of those friends, but you also got to get to know people and find out what they're about, because you never know where you might be in the future and have an opportunity. I have written down my speech, which is something who those know me know I never do. But I said I'm going to stay to 15 minutes. I'm going to hit some topic points, and then we're going to get you off to those brilliant workshops. One of the things I want to make sure that you understand is, at this point in time in our history of this country, your internship, your work is more needed than ever. If you don't understand that, I feel for you. You've been just not looking at TV or looking at radio or communications or other things, but it's more needed than ever. When I started at the state in 2016, there weren't many interns of color in any of the chambers. There weren't many interns of color in the governor's office. Matter of fact, there were no interns of color in the governor's office at the time. Since that time, Capital Pathway has done a great job, but also, too, if you're not in the room, if you're not at the table, and you're not even thought about, how much do you think policy reflects your needs and your community needs? It doesn't, and it won't. So the work that you do is going to be so important going forward. Also, too, how many of you heard the word equity before? How many heard the word inclusion before? How about diversity? Those are not illegal words. Those are not bad words. I encourage you to say them over and over and often again. But I encourage you not to use the term DEI anymore, because people get confused when they hear DEI is illegal, DEI is this, DEI is that. Cool, give them that. But talk to them about what it means to be an inclusive environment, what it means to be equitable, what it means to be diversity in an environment where you have shown that that diversity reflects excellence, that diversity reflects powerful policies that come out of the legislature. That diversity reflects graduates who've gone on to do great things. So make sure that you continue to do that, and don't say DEI, say the words out loud. And it's very important that you do that around these times. By the way, we're not changing our name at Children's. We're going to be Equity Inclusion until I leave there. So make sure that you know about that too. One of the things I want to say at Children's that we are able to do, and we're Children's Minnesota, not Children's Museum, so we don't do the archives, we do the kids. We serve about 6,000 employees, and we serve about 160,000 kids every year. Our kids are 40% people of color. Since the time I've been there, that number has increased probably about, in 6 years, 11 to 12%, and continues to grow. Why is that important? Culturally relevant and responsive healthcare is so important for our communities. Just on a call today with my team, and we were talking about a mistake, and you learn from your mistakes, where one of our employees had mistakenly did something and cut the hair of one of our Native American patients. The employee thought that she was doing right and correct things around what needed to be done to the hair, but the family talked about the culture, the reason why the hair shouldn't have been cut, and the things that they needed to learn from that. Those are health equity and things that we need to learn as a healthcare system. And one of the things I'm willing to always admit is when we make mistakes, we learn from those mistakes, and we continue growing. So by the work you're doing at the Capital Pathways internship program, you're helping us become a better hospital system and a system that allows us to address the needs of our patients and families. What I forgot to tell you earlier was my title now is I'm head of government relations, community relations, and chief equity inclusion officer. That's a lot of stuff. Now, I want to say this. I'm a little disappointed that I've not been called before to get a Capital Pathways intern in the 6 years I've been at Children's. Somebody Kalia, needs to fix that. Because we have 25 interns every year that come from Achieve Minneapolis, Right Track, and other programs as well. And typically 24 out of those 25 are students of color. So I want to make sure that we add Capital Pathways to that program as well. The other thing I want to say is, so this is a little bit tough, and I'm not asking that people change the name of this entire program today, but I want you to consider going forward. Remember I told you don't use the term DEI? I want you to consider when you use the term BIPOC. Now, some of you who know me and have followed me before know I read a whole article about I'm not BIPOC and why I said that. I don't mean to disparage it any means at all, the name of this conference, but I want you to make sure that when people use the term BIPOC, they're not trying to exclude others by including everybody. What do I mean by that? If we go out into a community and we need to serve the needs of a Somali immigrant community at a particular time and place with a particular policy, and we know that the needs of the leadership of the Somali community is there, everything is there is for that community, and we keep talking about BIPOC, 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 people may think, okay, as long as we have a Black, Indigenous, or people of color leader, that's okay. When you need something to be done in a community, you need people from that community who reflect that race or ethnicity. Sometimes that BIPOC word works. Sometimes it's used to mask, you know what, if I got a person of color there, it's okay. I encourage you to dissect that word. Black, Latino, Asian, Native, and other people of color, if you forget anybody, it's okay to say. It's okay to say out loud, because those things are important to distinguish when you're at Capitol. I'll give you an example. We talked about, when I was there 9 years ago, we talked about getting more money into communities of color, but we really reflected in the Black community in 2016, we spent less than 0.1% in the Black community. Out of $2 billion spent, $200,000 was spent in the Black community. Now, I could have said we're going to go and address all BIPOC communities, we're going to address all the things related to BIPOC. But what I really needed to focus on was what? The Black community, because that was the lowest rung. When you do disparities and you do work that target different areas, you have to distinguish between that. Now, how many of you can say with me that at some point in time, you're going to challenge the use of the word BIPOC and make sure you dig deeper in order to say, what are we really trying to get at? What's the problem we're looking for? How many of you can do that with me? Okay? Okay. I want to do that in a respectful way, because I'm not disparaging the name of the conference at all, but you got to dig deeper sometimes. The other thing I'll say to you as well, in order for us to have clean air to breathe, stable housing, making sure we have jobs and the economy, your role is so important. Social determinants of health is what dictates how people receive health care and how they come out of health care with positive outcomes. If you don't have good solid housing, you don't have good income through a job, and you don't have opportunities to be successful in community with education, your healthcare outcomes are typically lower than others. I encourage you to use the knowledge that you have gained, use the education that you have gained to take that mantle on, not only at the state legislature, but some of your local city councils as well. Not only the state legislature, but some of your county governments as well. And I encourage you all to run for office. I was impressed to hear that 6% when you started were people of color in the state legislature, and 17% now. And some of those good people are friends of mine that I used to work with way back in the day. Cedric Frazier, who's a very dynamic legislator, and I used to work at the Minneapolis Public Schools when we started our first equity and inclusion department. So those are the jobs that I want you to have in the future. Those are the things you got to address, and those social determinants of health are so important in order to do that. The other thing I want you to consider is when you talk about a pathway, make sure that you encourage others to follow your steps as well. What do I mean by that? When people ask me to mentor them or invest in them, I don't ask for any money, I don't ask for any accolades or recognition. What I do ask for is that they pay it forward. And pay it forward means that next time I come to this program, I hope to see some 12-year-olds, some 13-year-olds, some 11-year-olds, some young people, some middle schoolers in here as well, learning about what they can learn about policy and advocacy. I didn't start learning about that at a young age. I was not a Capital Pathways intern, but I was an intern in college at Morehouse College in Atlanta in 1987? Yeah, 87. I know, long time ago. And what I learned was I was one of the few interns of color there. Senator Arthur Langford was our boss. If you ever go to Georgia now and you see Langford Parkway, that's named after the senator that I worked for, and a lot of people that I worked for there. The reason I bring that up to you is these pathways have been going on for a long time, but unless young people experience you at a young age to say, hey, I can be that, I can see that, it won't make much difference because the recruiting for them will be much difficult to do because in a time now we have where people are saying we don't need those programs anymore. We don't need equity, we don't need inclusion, we don't need diversity. So it's up to you all to make sure those young people come. So the next time I come, hopefully we'll see younger people there as well. And another commitment I need you to make, that you're going to express to young people, other than your brothers and sisters at home, somebody outside of that family meal, the things that you're doing in this pathway program. Can I get a commitment for that as well? Yes? I'll come follow you now. I got a lot of people looking at you. You can follow you. Thank you for that. The other thing I'll say is, one of the things that I want to make sure you understand is how proud of you we are. When it comes to Minnesota, I've been here 32 years now, and I've seen some good things happen, and I've seen some things happen before George Floyd. We get a lot of times we hear people talk about Minnesota and they say after George Floyd or after George Floyd or when George Floyd. Well, Minnesota existed long before George Floyd, and the problems of policing, the problems of police violence, the problem of economic injustice and disparities were here long before George Floyd was murdered. And what I want you to think about is that history is important to build upon your ability to create great solutions around this. Never forget before George Floyd there was a Philando Castile. Never forget that before Philando there was a Jamar Clark. Never forget before that there were many other men and women who were subjected to things they shouldn't have been subjected to because we didn't have a system that changed. We looked at an episode, we didn't have a system that changed for the better in those areas. So I want to make sure that you as graduates, and I'm proud of you, learn that history, not only around policing, but also around economic development, economic disparities, and educational disparities. You know, what's the most important, or actually most embarrassing thing that I go around the country sometimes and talk to people is I have to own up to that Minnesota has some of the highest disparities, racial disparities in the country. I've been saying that for the last 20 to 30 years. Your obligation is to make sure we change that and that those disparities become not a reality anymore, but instead we have systems in place that change the education system, change the economic system, change the job system, and make sure that we're moving forward in a good direction. Once again, you know it's coming, another commitment. Can you commit to doing that as well? Yes? Okay. Because the reality is if we don't do that, the attack on democracy, the attack on people of color, the attack on diversity, equity, inclusion will continue. And if you don't fight for those things that mean something to you with the history that has been placed before you, we're in for a lot of trouble. So we got to make sure that we commit to that as well. As you continue to do what you do, one of the things I want to kind of end with here is just a couple of nuggets to help me. Be you. You know, recognize your values and make sure that your work aligns with those values. There'll be times in your career you'll be faced with a dilemma to say, hey, this job pays a lot of money, it could serve a lot of people, but it goes against my values. I encourage you not to change your values, but I encourage you to align yourself with places and spaces that have those values at the top and the forefront. I work at Children's Minnesota not because the money's great. Well, it's not bad, but it's not great, and it could be other places, but the values of putting kids first, the values of inclusivity, the values of a place where we can bring any child and take care of that family and show that family how we can be a partner in raising healthier children is why I'm there. Make sure that those things align with your values as you make choices along the way. And make sure that as you make those decisions, other people know that that's the reason you're choosing those organizations as well. If you find yourself in a place and space where you have student loans and other things where you have to not necessarily compromise your values, but weigh that with the pay as well, still bring your full self of values to that particular organization. I won't mention it, but I won't mention the name, but I'll mention the story. I was at a law firm long, long ago when I graduated from Georgetown Law School that I came into, and I was one of, out of 220 young attorneys, I was the only black attorney there, associate attorney, maybe one partner. And I didn't change my values, but I was like, you know what, now that I'm here, I'm gonna help recruit more people of color to come to this organization. I'm gonna find more internship programs. Matter of fact, I'm gonna create an internship program myself, which I was able to do. So when you go to a place that the values aren't expressed, make sure that you can influence those as well. And that's where I met Walter Mondale for the first time too, so it's kind of cool. And Senator Klobuchar. So now you'll figure out which firm it was, but. The other thing is be present. Be visible, be a presence for those who may not have a voice. You can't be silent right now. One of the things in my profession of equity, diversity, inclusion that I'm disappointed in and disturbed about is so many companies are silent right now. So many individuals are silent right now. I mentioned before, when George Floyd was murdered, how many companies did you see step up, sign a pledge, jump up, I'm here, I want to do DEI and all those things. But right now, when it's a tough time, nobody's saying anything. You got to be present. You got to be the forefront of all the change that's going to happen because people need to see you, see your face, and hear you as well. And that goes for those who are in my positions and roles too. I'm not an elder yet. I'm holding on to my uncle title for now. But I am an uncle. I accepted that. But folks like me need to hear your voice as well. And don't be silent when you're in the room with us. Robert Harper, who I've known for a long time here, is much younger than I am. But when he's in rooms with me, he's not silent, he's not quiet. He can defer to me as knowing some things, but his voice is heard. You have to have your voice heard. You have to be present as well. Other thing I'll say is be vulnerable. Admit that you don't know everything and learn from ideas of others and inform decisions. That's a tough one. I was never taught in any education I had to be vulnerable. I was taught to be a type A personality, know everything in the room. If you don't know everything in the room, fake it. And then I was a trial attorney for a long time, so I faked it very well and did well. Those days have to be gone. You have to be vulnerable to understand people. In order to get them to trust you and build upon that relationship, you have to show that vulnerability as well. And that's so important when you bring your full self to policy making, because if you don't understand community, you won't understand the policy needed. If you don't understand community, you won't understand the jobs needed and the economic development needed for that community. If you don't understand community, community won't trust you. And then when you come to make policy and try to bring them to the legislature to testify, they'll look at you like, well, you don't really know me. You just want me here as a space and a place. The last thing I'll say is be inclusive and be equitable. Make your room for different ideas, make room for diversity, and make some of those outcomes and decisions making sure that folks know what equity is. Equity became a word because equal was never enough. Equity became a word to transform things in Minnesota because equal left people behind. If someone asks you now to disregard equity, forget about racial equity, forget about economic justice, ask them, have things changed, and are we in an inclusive environment where everybody's getting what their fair share is? The answer is what? No. So you have to continue leading an equitable life, an equitable environment, and making sure those things are at the forefront. I want to do this and say congratulations again, and say that I'm, interested in you being a difference in the lives of kids and families for everyone, but I'm more so interested in you being that example that we have to have so other young people can see what you've done, what you're doing, and how much you're going to make it. 10 years is a short period of time. We need 10 plus 10 more years of this. And I need you to commit to making that happen. So I want to say thank you, and I want to bring up the the key speaker for this, because she's a student speaker and she's going to rock the room. I know she is. Sheridan runs after a student from this year's Capital cohort to the stage to share about her learnings and experience as an intern this session. And also, too, she's a rising senior at Southwest Minnesota State University, which is ironic because David Collier, my intern, graduated from Southwest Minnesota State University as well. And she's also intern with the League of Women Voters. So bring Sheridan to the stage, and thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, James. I really appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sheridan Runsafter, and I am an enrolled member of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe of South Dakota and a senior at Southwest Minnesota State University, where I'm currently majoring in Justice Administration with 3 minors in Political Science, Indigenous and Dakota Studies, and Pre-Law. I also had the amazing chance to work with the League of Women Voters during my time with Capital Pathways, and I am deeply grateful to be here speaking with you all. First, I want to extend a big thank you to Kalia and everyone involved with Capital Pathways. For making this event possible, not just this event, but the program itself. My experience as an intern with Capital Pathways has made such a big impact on me, and I'm so excited to share just a part of that journey with you today. Before Capital Pathways, I had never really thought about policymaking and politics because it seemed so far away from me. They were people and systems that I had studied, but never saw myself reflected in. I was intimidated and scared of this powerful space that offered limited representation of not only my own community, but many communities of color in government and policy spaces. Growing up on a reservation that has been affected by the ripples of historical and generational trauma, I always knew that my passion and purpose was tied to justice, especially justice for underserved and Indigenous communities. But for a really long time, I wasn't sure how that passion could turn and translate into real change. I didn't realize that my story, my voice, my experiences not only mattered, but had a place in public policy. What drew me to Capital Pathways was the possibility to be a part of something bigger than myself, where I could learn how decisions are made and how I could be a part of making them. I wanted to learn how systems work from the inside and how I can use my experiences to shape them. I was placed with the League of Women Voters of Minnesota, where I was able to work on projects and initiatives that I was interested in and passionate about. Most notably, throughout the course of the program, I researched civic engagement in Minnesota, specifically amongst Native communities. Minnesota regularly leads the nation with the highest voter turnout rate, but a deeper dive reveals that while that is true, there are still major discrepancies and gaps within turnouts amongst Indigenous communities. One of the questions that I had to keep asking myself was, how could this be? How could this be in a state with 11 tribal nations? How can this be when the very capital where decisions are made was built on the same land stolen from the first inhabitants of this land? It was throughout discussions with my extremely supportive supervisors, community members, and leaders like Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan and Representative Leish Kwolzowski that I was encouraged to keep asking questions, push boundaries, and begin having some of the uncomfortable but necessary conversations. Conversations about what systems have done wrong and how those wrongs continue to affect real people and what we must do to fix them. One of the most powerful parts of this experience was learning that advocacy isn't always loud and immediate. Sometimes change and understanding happens in the quiet moments, the conversations we have when we can see each other as human beings, not just roles and titles. Advocacy can be seen in the data we gather, the initiatives we push for, and the communities we center throughout the whole process. The Capitol used to feel like such a faraway place where decisions were always being made about us, but rarely with us. Now, I see it a little bit differently. I've walked those halls, met with strong leaders, and believe that I have found not only a piece of my voice, but my purpose as well. This experience didn't just confirm my passion for public service. It helped me see exactly why that work matters. Since the start of the program, I have been able to grow personally and professionally with the help of my uplifting host organization and supportive staff of the Capital Pathways program. I have been able to further my advocacy with various Indigenous leaders and communities around the state. And this summer, I will be interning with the Office of Indian Policy at the Minnesota Department of Human Services. These opportunities have been a continuation of the solid foundation that Capital Pathways helped me build. Now, more than ever, I can see a future where I am not just navigating systems that my community has been historically excluded from. I am helping break and redesign them to be more diverse, inclusive, equitable, and just. Capital Pathways matters because representation matters, because access and inclusivity matter, because when we lift up and invest in young people of color, Indigenous students, and those whose communities have continued to be excluded from the table, we all can benefit. I believe in this program because it believed in me. The wild chance that brought me here has changed the trajectory of not only my life, but my career. I am proud of what my peers and I have accomplished, but I am even more proud of what it means, that our presence in these spaces matter, that change is happening, and that hopefully the next generation won't have to question if they belong because they'll see they always have. Thank you. And then I want to invite the Executive Director of the Citizens League, Jake Loesch, to come up and give some closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Sheridan. Hello, everyone. Can we do one more round of applause for Sheridan and for James for joining us this morning? I just have a few housekeeping things for you all, but before we go into that, I have to take a moment to give a shout out to Kalia Zhang, our program director. Kalia was part of our very first cohort of Capital Pathways in 2016, and after that, she doubled down, devoted herself to this program, and over the last decade has almost single-handedly built everything you know about Capital Pathways today. It's Kalia's visionary leadership that has brought us all here. So please join me in thanking her for it. We're so grateful that you've all made time to be with us today, celebrating 10 years of this incredible program. As Sheridan said, my name is Jake Loesch. I am very proud to serve as Executive Director of Citizens League. For more than 73 years, Citizens League has been a leading voice across Minnesota for pragmatic public policy solutions and finding ways to collaborate, to push back on division and polarization, and bridge divides. This program is just one example of the ways that we do that. And in addition to our Capital Pathways program, earlier this year we released a new report on workforce challenges and opportunities in local government across the state, and we launched an exciting new initiative called the Minnesota Legislative Exchange, which will pair up Republicans and Democrats in the state legislature to spend time together visiting each other's districts, learning more about each other's backgrounds and communities, and building bipartisan relationships, which from our perspective is kind of essential to getting some stuff done. Anyone who's been following the legislative session knows that it ended finally, but not without its fair share of challenges this year. Next Friday, June 20th, we'll actually be in Wilmer with Representative Dave Baker, a Republican, and Representative Mary Frances Clardy, a Democrat, as our first exchange as a part of that program. We're really excited about that. But we can't do any of this work without your help. So I get the fun job of asking you to pull out your wallets and help support our program today. Individual members and supporters like you are the backbone of this work, and I'm hoping and I'm asking you to join us today. So if programs like Capital Pathways and supporting career pathways for BIPOC students is something that is important to you, if you think it matters, if you think we need more of it, please consider making a financial gift to Citizens League today. With this graduating cohort, this program will have served nearly 350 students and worked with at least 115 host organizations. The impact of that work in the last decade is going to continue, as you've heard. This is literally changing the face of public policy making for the better across the state of Minnesota, and we need your help today to continue doing that work. We've already made important progress, but it has to continue, and we need your support now more than ever. So we've made it easy for you. There are QR codes on your program. There's a QR code on the screen. There are donation envelopes. Please consider what this program means to you and making a financial contribution to Citizens League today to help us before you leave. Thank you very much for your support and for continuing to help make sure Capital Pathways can continue for another decade and beyond. So, with that, we're going to move into breakout sessions next. We have 4 incredible opportunities for you. Again, you can scan the QR code on your program to see a little bit of information about each one of the sessions. They are all going to be across the street, so not directly across the street, but kind of kitty corner. There's the OGC building. There are signs over there. We'll have some staff and volunteers. Look for the orange name tags. We'll be helping direct you to make sure you can find which breakout session you'd like to participate in. Trying to wrap it up. You got about 20 minutes to get over there, so hopefully long enough. All sessions will begin promptly at about 10:30, and when they wrap up after an hour, please come make your way back over here. We'll have lunch ready at about 11:30, and our graduation program will begin at noon. So with that, thank you all very much for being here this morning. Enjoy your breakout sessions. Oh, I should also mention, if you would like to, there is an arts and crafts area in the lobby of the OGC Center. If you would rather not do a breakout session, you can make your own vision board or do other activities there during that hour time. Otherwise, we will see you back here between 11:30 and noon to get our graduation underway. Thank you very much.